Great. So we have that little bug fixed on the maze and the angels. And now what I want to do is go back and fix one piece of functionality. And that is when we first start the game, or whenever we load the game, then it should print out a screen GUI that says the rules and also states the has a button on the bottom, or if you click it, the rules go away and the person can begin playing the game. Okay, so we haven't done that yet, and a good way to do that would be to grab the end screen GUI, the one that we created when the player touches the soldier way at the chopper, and that one is right here. And it was probably misnamed as Start GUI, but it really should be called End GUI. But I believe there's some scripts in here that use that name, Start GUI, so I'm not going to change anything here, just so that all the scripts will still work. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to right-click and duplicate that Start GUI, and I'm going to name it Real Start GUI. Okay, so go ahead and do that same thing. And what we want to do is to make it not say what it currently says. So I think this one here is pink, so I'm going to go ahead and readjust that so it's white. And then I am going to change the text here to not restart, but to start. Let's go ahead and turn it on so we can see what we're doing, what the changes we're making, by clicking on the Real Start GUI and clicking on Enabled. Go to Start button, and I want it to say click here and then say to start below that. So I'm going to go down a little bit to the text, and I'm going to put some more spaces right in between here and to, so we get this. Okay, and now that we shortened up the text, the amount of width it takes to print out that text, I'm going to go ahead and make the box a little bit skinnier. And because I do that, I need to go ahead and change the position. So I'm going to go here to position and change it to 0.5, comma 0, and 0.7. So there we go. And then the rules label shouldn't be called the rules label. Well, it shouldn't be called the rules label up here. But let me go ahead and come here to the rules label. Everything looks good except for what it says. So if we scroll down to text, I'm going to change this to rules. Then I'm going to put a couple spaces in here so it can start on the next line. And I'm going to put minimize deaths or oomphs. And then I'm going to put number 2 is to get to the chopper. Okay. And so that looks perfect. The box looks a little bit skinny, so I'm going to go ahead and widen them up. So come down to Real Starter GUI, Rules label, and then stretch it out a bit. Whoa. Okay, so that looks good. And now I need to add some more spaces here between rules and 1. So if I scroll down to text, I can go to rules and 1, and I can add a couple more spaces, and there we go. Now that I widen the box, I do need to change the position so it's in the center of the page. So if I come down here to the rules label, go down to position, this here should be 0.5, and hit enter, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have this this starter GUI opened up, what we want to do is make sure you click on starter GUI, come down to enabled, and make it disabled. Okay. Now we need to think about when we want that starter GUI to run or to show, okay, because we need to program it to be clicked on, for it's enabled to be set to true when we want it to be set to true. And so when the person starts the game, I want the rules to be shown once, right when they start the game. That's it, right? And they could start here, they could start here, they could start at any spawn location. Okay. One thing that we need to consider, well, maybe I could talk about that later, but so we want it to show when they first start the game, and if they die while in game and they respawn, I don't want it to show anymore, right? I just want it to show once in the beginning of the game. So if we come down here, the question really is where should we put the code that controls whether enabled is true or false? And we either want to put it here in starter character scripts, or we want to put it here in starter player scripts. And so what you need to understand about these two folders is that any script you put in starter player scripts runs once when they first enter the game. Any script that you put here in starter character scripts loads every time the character is loaded into the game, which means every death, right? So every time he comes in, like in the very beginning when he first spawns, it's going to run. And every time he respawns, this script is going to run. Right? So I want to put the script here in starter player scripts because I just want to tap in once. So if we right click, we can insert a local script. Let's call this, I already got it here, but let's go ahead and redo it just for you all watching the video. Call it start GUI local script. And what I want to do is first of all get the player. So let's go ahead and get the player. And now that we have him, what we can do is set the, and we also want to get the GUI. So let's say here local GUI is equal to player GUI dot real starter GUI. Okay, and now that we have that, what we can say is GUI dot enabled is equal to true. Okay, so this is going to run in the beginning of our program, and I'm going to come here and delete the other one that I have. Of course, you don't have that one, so don't worry about it. But this is what we want. We want to add a starter GUI local script to our starter player scripts. And let's go ahead and test it out and see what happens. If we come here to player, really black, that's the begin. I'm going to go ahead and change that to really black, the beginning of our program, and our beginning of our obby, and I will run it. And right down here it says that team color is not a valid member of player. Okay, so let's go and stop and see what's the problem with that. And what are they talking about? Let's see. Team color. Oh, okay, so this is capital T, right? Okay. And it says here real starter GUI is not a valid member of player GUI. So let's go ahead and play the game and see why that's the case. Why is that error coming out? And what we can do is take a look at where our GUIs are being stored, and we can see if that is actually the case. So if we look here in Explorer, we can click on the player. We can go into player GUI, and we have real start GUI. Okay, so it's called real start GUI, not real starter GUI. So if we go back into our script that we just made, the local script, I put real starter GUI. I'm just going to make it real start GUI, and let's try that again. Okay, so real start GUI is not a member of player GUI. So let's come back over here and take a look and see what's happening. Real start GUI is in player GUI. So that looks good. I think what's happening here is that when this script here is run, it's run before the player has loaded, the player's player GUIs have loaded into the game. So what we can do instead of this is we can go ahead and say player GUI wait for child, and then put in double quotes the name of the child that we want to wait for, which is the real start GUI. So this is going to go ahead and wait until this real start GUI is loaded into the game. And once it is, only then will it continue and set the GUI is enabled to true. So I think that should fix our problem. So let's go ahead and try that out and see what happens. And here we go, right? So we got our starter GUI playing, and if I guess we can stop there, and I can talk about how to continue making it work the way we want to work in the next video.